mushroom here that I've never done a video on before, though I've been finding them for years. This is the honey mushroom. It's Armillaria is the honey mushroom family, but I did a video on the ringless honey mushroom, which I think is Armillaria tabescens, and these are the Armillaria malea, if that's how you pronounce it. This is the stage right here when they are excellent edibles, because they are still closed up. Now that, you can see that you can't see the gills. That is a veil. It starts out as a veil that covers the gills when they're young, and when they start to open up, that stays on the stem and becomes a ring around the stem. And that's the easy way to differentiate these between the ringless honey mushroom and the regular honey mushroom. There are some other varieties, but these are the two most prominent ones, at least in the area that I live. So I'm going to give you some shots of these at a few different stages. They most often come up in clusters like this. Now, here and there, there's a couple that look kind of single coming up like that there. There's some more. There's one right here that looks like it's a single one coming up. But what this is a network that are all connected underneath the soil in the root systems of this tree. There's some real small ones there. I want to make sure I don't step on any. Real small buttons just coming up here. See how big they are. And another cluster over here. Okay, I've harvested what I'm going to from this patch. This is the stage when they are perfect for eating. When that veil is still closed up, even if they're opening a little bit. I'm not sure if any of these are, but I'll show you some examples of that. This one's probably coming close. But they're very firm, very hard. Stem is very hard at this stage. That's when they're best for eating by far. Once they open up, you can still eat them, but in my opinion, the flavor is not as good. The texture is not as good. So I'll try to show you some at a couple different stages. All right, check these guys out here. They're a little bit bigger. I think maybe starting to open up. Oh yeah, see that? That ring is completely detached now from the outer edge of the cap. The spore print on these guys is white, and that can be very important if you want to distinguish them from the deadly Gallerina. Now, someone who's seasoned and experienced with these mushrooms, it's pretty easy to tell just by looking at them. These honey mushrooms, if you can tell, have kind of a rough look on the surface, kind of dull, but the deadly Gallerinas are pretty shiny and smooth. But they do have a very faint ring as well, but their spore print is brown. So if you're ever in doubt, because these honey mushrooms can actually be quite a bit darker brown than this. This is the classic honey color, which is why they get their name, but sometimes they can be a pretty dark brown and can more closely resemble the deadly Gallerina. So definitely learn that mushroom before you start taking these and eating them. Look at these big guys. These are actually quite large for being at the stage they're at. They are at a very good stage for eating when they're not opened up yet, just like that. You can see that veil just kind of separating on some of them. See the veil still connected on some of those, and it's separating to become a ring right there on that one. Check this out. Here's some honey mushrooms. This is a case where almost an entire cluster has been eaten by something. Those stems have been chewed off, not clean cut like they would be if somebody cut them with a knife. And I've seen this many times. Deer and squirrels can often eat them, as well as many other mushrooms. Here's a nice cluster right here. Nice classic honey color. I'm gonna take some of those. Okay, here's a cluster that is well opened up. There's some more up there on that stump that have been chewed off by something. But I'll show you these guys. There's that ring. Now at this stage, I don't usually take them and eat them. They're just not as good as when they're small and closed up. They're softer and the flavor isn't as good. Wouldn't hurt you. You can still do it. But, oh, right there you can see the white spore print. I mentioned the spore print is white. You can see where because these are so opened up, they're starting to spore out. So those spores had fallen from this bigger one onto the ones below it. That's pretty cool. Now, even when they look like they're growing from the ground like this, well, they are growing from the ground, but they're connected to the root system of that stump. That's what they're feeding off of. These feed off of dead and dying wood, and they're actually somewhat parasitic sometimes. They can feed off a live tree and actually kill it. So a lot of people don't like them for that reason. All right, I've got these honey mushrooms washed up, and a couple things that I haven't mentioned yet. One is these mushrooms, it seems more so, from what I've read, it seems more so than a lot of other mushrooms, tend to bother some people's digestion. They don't sit well with some people, they can't digest them. So it's important with any wild mushroom you try for the first time, but especially honey mushrooms. If you're trying them for the first time, just try a little bit and make sure, wait a day or two, make sure that they do all right before you go and eat a bunch of them. I've been eating them for years and they've never bothered me, but I'll tell you something I do. It's something that people recommend for honey mushrooms especially, is to parboil them. I'm actually heating up some water right now. Parboil them for 2 minutes before then cooking them, however you're going to cook them. That parboiling does two things. It can take away a little bit of a bitter taste that some honey mushrooms can have, and it can also take out whatever bothers people's stomachs sometimes, or at least help. If you're a person that just can't handle them at all, then it may not make much of a difference. But sometimes some people it might just make them feel a little weird or make their stomach a little upset. But if you parboil them first, sometimes it can make that go away. So I'm doing that right now. But another thing is, they said you should always really thoroughly cook this mushroom. I mean, all wild mushrooms should be cooked before eating, but especially honey should be really thoroughly cooked. Taking some of the larger ones and cut them in half. As you can see, that veil I talked about is just covering up the gills until they start to open up. And the stems are completely white inside. They're a little bit fibrous, so that's why I didn't take a whole lot of the stem. Some of these were a lot taller than what you see here, but I left most of the stem there. I just took a little bit of it. Another thing that I think I started to say while I was out there in the woods, but I got distracted and forgot to continue, was that many patches of honey mushrooms are often connected by a network of black cords that run kind of under the ground and like sometimes up the inside of the bark of a tree. They're called rhizomorphs, and this actually connects many different clusters sometimes, and it's actually considered one organism because they're all connected. And it's actually the largest organism in the world is considered to be a patch of honey mushrooms up in the northwest somewhere, northwest United States, that covers 2,400 acres. That's crazy. That's all. It's all connected and considered one organism, but that's what they say. All right, there they are. It's been about 2 minutes. Now I'm going to take them out and put them right in the frying pan. You can see how they're turning brown. They're losing that yellow honey color. They'll get even browner as I cook them. Now I'm just sauteing them up. I took them right out of the pot and put them just dry right in the pan. I shouldn't say dry because they were soaking wet with the water. So I boiled that off and then added some butter. Honey mushrooms tend to be really slick and slimy. In fact, if you add them to soup, and cook them in soup, they can actually help thicken it up a little bit. They have a bit of a mucilaginous quality. But we're just going to saute these. We might add them to soup afterwards, or to some pasta, or whatever we have for the next few nights to dinner. I'll probably add these to. I don't think I mentioned that these are a fall mushroom. They grow in the fall, at least here where I'm at in Missouri. October is usually the month, October into November. It's actually Halloween right now, so the last day of October when I harvested these. The ringless honey mushrooms tend to come up just a little bit earlier than these. It does overlap a little bit. There's been times when I found both on the same day, but they start a little bit earlier, the ringless do, and then these last a little bit longer. So I think that's about all I got for the honey mushroom. I hope you get a chance to enjoy it. Make sure you do your research thoroughly. Don't just go by what I said, but check many sources. And thank you for watching.